The Sunrise Club is closing session. What a weekend. Has everyone had a good time at Sundance so far? Okay. My name is Minji Chang. I'm one of the co-producers of the Asian Pacific Filmmakers Experience. You guys are in for a treat today. Oh, okay. You are in for a treat today. Today is actually a really special milestone for our collective because this is our 20th edition here in Park City. So believe it or not, back in 2002 when it was nothing but snow and not a lot of Asian American people, I think like half a dozen people gathered in a Chinese restaurant to make a space to celebrate Asian American narratives at Sundance Film Festival, which was a really big deal. So can we give a round of applause for the filmmakers? Sorry, is this? You guys hear me okay? Just checking. Okay, so we're here to celebrate, take a look back and to reflect and also look forward and bring some really great guests to kind of share their stories and to see what's next for our community as we keep blazing the trails. And we're really, really happy and excited to be here as a collective. And we'll get to the organizers later, but we really want to jump into the program so you guys can hear these awesome conversations. But to kick us off, we're going to start with a few words from Neil Ruiz, who is here from the Pew Research Center, and he's been spearheading this amazing study, the biggest study actually to date ever on Asian Americans, and to understand our community, our habits, and bring some data because we love a little bit of sexy data to back up, all the stories that we're sharing. So he is, no big deal. He is a bachelor's from Cal, master's from Oxford, an economist, PhD from MIT. He's got the credentials. And he was the principal investigator for Being Asian in America. So please give it up for Neil Ruiz, who's here to share some experience.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here at Sundance. This is my first time here. It's Pew Research Center's first debut to being here at Sundance, so it's been an honor. It has been an amazing honor to actually do this big study on Asian Americans. We've been missing, not just in a lot of the stuff that you do in terms of storytelling, but in public opinion research. We have an election year, and you watch CNN, Fox News, whatever your appetite is, and you normally see black, white, Hispanic, other. Maybe Asian, and if you have Asian means so many different identities, so diverse, and so many different starting points as well. And part of this study they'll talk about, we didn't do Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders because that's going to be our next phase. Because I knew that Asian Americans was a story of immigration to the US, whereas Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders is a story of America coming to them. So look out for that in the next couple of years. But what I wanted to show you here is that first, this was a really hard project to do. It took a lot of resources, a multi-million-dollar project, and some of our funders are here, including the Asian American Foundation, Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, the Doris Duke Foundation, and some of our big supporters, which is the Leaders Forum, who made this possible. And this took a lot of hard work. So I come from the nerdy data world, and we did many different mixed methods, what we call mixed methods, which we did qualitative work. We listened to 84 focus groups of 18 different Asian origin groups in 18 different languages. This is almost 500 people to hear their stories. Then we also did the largest survey, the National Representative Survey of Asian Americans, where we had to mail out, like a census, about almost 300,000 mailings with $2 bills around the country to answer those questions that you normally get from census. So this yielded the largest study of its kind. And I'm going to share with you a little bit of what we found. First, discrimination is nothing new to Asian Americans. It's been a long history of exclusion, and we have to realize it's still really new. Asian Americans are also the largest immigrant group of any racial ethnic origin group. So it's very a transformative group where we have a generation that's majority immigrant, a second, third, and more generation that's finding its place in America. But discrimination, even though we heard a lot about it during COVID-19, has been here for a long time. And Asian Americans are telling us this. We found on the left, from COVID-19 era, you see that Southeast Asians and East Asians in particular know another Asian person who has been threatened or has experienced violence because of COVID-19. On the right, because of 9/11. you see that most South Asians, 1 in 3 South Asians, have experienced being a secondary screen in security checkpoints. And we also notice that Asian Muslims in particular, more than half, have experienced this. Also, we know that many people, whether you're born in the US or you were born outside the country, you're still treated as a foreigner. Over 80% have been told, go back to your home country, been criticized for speaking another language, or been assumed you don't speak English. We also notice that there's another stereotype, the model minority stereotype. Over 60% of Asian Americans experience this. People assume that you're not good in math and science, or assume that you're not a creative thinker. All of you here in the room, I mean, come on, you're creative here in the arts, and that's what a lot of people don't think. And we heard a lot in our focus groups about how Asian Americans are the leadership material. Are you just technical? Or be behind the scenes, not the one in the front of the camera, or in the CEO or the C-suites. We also know that besides these stereotypes, the second generation is hiding its culture from non-Asians. There is a shame of being embarrassed, bullied, teased. The second generation in particular, almost 40% say they have hidden a part of their culture from non-Asians. These are a few of the challenges that we have for Asian Americans. Yet, for all of you as storytellers, there are other challenges as well. Asian Americans are very American. If we go to the next slide. Oh, yeah, sorry about that. We trended the questions on what it means to be American with the general US public, and they're exactly, practically identical on believing in individual freedoms, in believing in a diverse racial, ethnic, religious backgrounds, in believing in our US political institutions and laws, also have nearly identical views on the American dream. So Asian Americans, even though we're very diverse and a very new group in the United States, we're also very American. But Asian Americans don't know their history. Only 1 in 4 told us they're knowledgeable about their history. But where they're getting the information? From the survey findings, not through K through 12, but through media, through the internet, through all of you in this room. This is where your challenge lies, because they're listening to you to learn about their history in America. So all of this data, I just touched a little bit. We have reports on identity, on views of your ancestral homelands, on religious identity, discrimination, Asian Americans living in poverty. All of these 10 plus publications are available. In various spots, you'll see this where you could go use the QR code to get to the reports, and also there's a nice USB drive with all the reports available. But I leave you with this challenge. As storytellers, executives, producers in the storytelling world, these are the voices of the 24 million Asian Americans. You can hear them now. It's been hard work, and I know all of you do really hard work. We're celebrating 20 years of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in films today, during the session. And the challenge now is, when I come back here 10 to 20 years from now, if I ask the same questions, will Asian Americans continue to be treated as foreigners? Will they continue to not know their history? Will they continue to be treated like they don't belong in America? Will they continue to be treated and be ashamed of their heritage? That's the challenge I leave with you. I will do my part in public opinion research in Washington, D.C., and I hope you do your part in independent filmmaking. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And one more round of applause for Neil Ruiz. Incredibly important work. We're really excited to have all these amazing partners come on board. APFE was actually, like I mentioned, birthed in 2002. It was a very organic process just to have presence in Sundance and Park City. And the evolution over the years has been kind of astronomical and crazy to witness, but also important to note that we're at our 20th edition, and it started in 2002, and if the math ain't mathin', it's because there are 2 years where there were no API filmmakers at all at Sundance. So there's, the conversation of what the reflection of the last couple decades says, you know, that's something that we want to dive into today. So we're just excited to, it's a celebration regardless, because the presence here, the fact that we have Sunrise Collective, can we give it up for the TAF and for creating the Gold House, because having this space, having all of us here in mass in this room to hear these conversations is a really, really big deal, and that's something that we focus on and want to celebrate. And so next up we have a great panel discussion that is going to be reflecting on the last couple decades, from trailblazers who've been in the space for a very long time and newcomers to the Sundance and the indie film world, because these narratives, as Neil mentioned, these are the things that are educating, you know, millions of people. And I think everybody knows here that media now, and the world is getting so much smaller, that media reaches even further. So this is not just a domestic conversation. These are narratives that empower and enlighten people all over the globe. And it doesn't mean that it's just AAPI specific, right? Having authenticity in a story helps liberate and honestly empower anybody. It doesn't matter what your background is. So we're just happy to contribute to that. And so we have an amazing, the previous panel was the badass woman, and we have one here being our moderator. I truly, as a person, as an actor and filmmaker myself, really look up to this person, and as a community organizer. We have Nina Yang Bongiovi here to moderate a panel with some filmmakers to talk about past, present, and future. Nina Yang is BAFTA Award nominated. She's an award-winning producer. She is on the Producers Guild of America. She has worked on some small projects like Fruitvale Station and Dove and Sorry to Bother You and Godfathers of Harlem and Passing. And she's just absolutely doing incredible things. She's a co-founder of Significant Productions with Forrest Whitaker. They have been just changing the narrative one project at a time, many projects at a time. So we're so honored that she has been a partner, a friend of APFE all these years. We're excited to celebrate her and have her moderate our panel. So everyone give it up for Nina Yang Bongiovi.
All right, I'm moderating this panel, so I might fuck it up, just be honest. But I want to just introduce filmmakers onto this panel. And we have three filmmakers. One is the wonderful Ramona Diaz. She is a wonderful documentary feature filmmaker. Come on, I'm going to have them introduce themselves when they come up. And then we have a feature director, writer-director, Tony Bui, who's really a pioneer here at Sundance. And then Luciane, come out. Luciane is a writer, producer, director of a short film that's here at Sundance. So give it up for our wonderful panelists, and we're going to talk about 20 minutes of where they are, what they see for the future, and then leave about 10 minutes for Q&A. Cool? Okay, short intro of yourself and your film.
I am Ramona Diaz. I have a film here premiering tomorrow night. It is called, and so it begins. At the raves and premieres, 6:30. It's about, what is it about? It's about joy as a form of resistance. That's what the film is about.
Great. Tony?
So I'm here as part of the 40th anniversary celebrations, where they're bringing back past films to celebrate. I'm showing 3 Seasons again, which played here 25 years ago. And it's a restored 4K version of the film. Unfortunately, when we made the film, or fortunately, unfortunately, it was all celluloid. It was never transferred to digital of any kind, so there was no way to see it for the last 20, 25 years. And I was really fortunate when Sundance called to include the film. Then we were like, oh my God, we have to raise the money, do the 4K conversion. We might not have even done it, so Sundance to include this film, so it was really amazing. So now the film, it's going to be re-released, you know, and it can be streamed and all that, so it's really great. And the film, just real quick, it's going to play on Thursday. I played once before, it's going to play again on Thursday, The Egyptian. And really, it's just a film that was a reaction to all these sort of American Vietnam War films that I'd seen growing up, which was always from the point of view of, you know, white American soldiers, never from the point of view of the Vietnamese, and I wanted to sort of change that with 3 Seasons and make a film that was actually about post-war Vietnam, about how the Vietnamese people were trying to deal with it and grow and transform their country.
Luciane?
Hi, I'm Luciane. I'm so sorry I've lost my voice. I had my premiere last night for my short film and was very excited. It's called Lea Tupu'anga Mother Tongue, and it's it's in the competition for the international shorts. It's the first Tongan film to ever play at Sundance. So it's amazing. I wrote it and I star in it. I'll never do that again. It was really hard. And yeah, this is just a dream come true. I can't believe I'm sitting on a stage with people like you, and this is awesome. Thank you for having me.
So I wanted to ask each one of you, what inspired you to become a filmmaker? Was it a certain film or a certain incident that inspired you to go forward? Because we know how challenging it is for us to be pursuing this career culturally. So what made you go forth to become a filmmaker?
So I'll tell you this story. Yeah, better. I think that it's sort of the, not really the origin story, but the film that really inspired me to be a filmmaker was and I don't mean to sound pretentious, but was a Truffaut film. And really it's one of his lesser known films. It's Day for Night. And Day for Night is a film about making films, basically. And it looks like so much fun. It looked like camp for adults. And so I wanted to do that. That's what I said, oh, that looks like fun. I want to do that. But I wanted to be Truffaut, right? I wanted to be the director. So that's really it. And then photography, and then led me to documentaries.
Amazing. Tony?
So I grew up in the Silicon Valley, and my parents and everyone I knew, aunts and uncles, worked on computers and all that. My dad ended up getting laid off, ended up opening these video DVD stores, and so that was my introduction to filmmaking and watching all these movies. I was watching all these movies all the time because I would have to go out to the store to work, video store, come back, and so and that could have changed my life. But at that time, I was still watching a lot of the really popular films, and I remember in my youth, the film that really changed everything for me was actually watching Bertolucci's Last Emperor, which at that time was, super acclaimed, and just to see sort of John Lone and space and Joan Chen and see Asian faces on screen for me blew my mind. It was something that I didn't think was something that was even possible. And it's funny because when you don't have it, it's almost like you don't know what you're missing. It kind of plays on you internally. Then when you see it, there's this gush of emotion comes out. And that's what it was for me for watching The Last Emperor. It was the first time I ever sat through the credits for, because I was like, oh my God, what does Keith Whip do? What does Gaffer do? What does a cinematographer do? And I was like, maybe that's just something I could do. And I was just so moved. And then I watched the documentary where the cinematographer Vittorio Storaro talks about how he shot, the introduction of the colors, how he first brought green to the film, how he first brought red. I was like, my mind was blown away by the craft of it. So then that was the film that influenced me.
Luciane?
Well, I kind of started through acting, so I just was a TV kid growing up, but that was our parents' way of looking after us. They're like, we've got to go to work every day, watch TV, and, films were such a, ritual in our family. We would go to the movies all the time, we'd watch, Lord of the Rings. I know I'm from New Zealand, but, we made a thing out of it. We go to midnight screenings when we were children, which is not okay. Parents are different, they're but I think in terms of filmmaking, it came from a desire, because I'm very new, I'm not as experienced as you guys, but I just wanted to see something that hadn't been around, and it was at a time where I wasn't booking work as an actor. I never saw a character like the role that I wrote for my short film, so it was just a call to action from it being not a thing in my industry. So that's kind of how I found it, but so many movies influenced me.
Yeah, it's so great to hear just the generational evolution of filmmaking. And I wanted to ask Tony, when you were out here in 1998, how many Asians were out here?
I was here actually in 96, so I was
Wait,
here
96?
99 for my feature, but 96 for my short. So I was still in school. I made a short called Yellow Lotus, which I shot in Vietnam. That was precursor to 3 seasons.
Right.
So I came in 96, and I tell you, I talked to other people about it. I even talked to, I think, Danny Day came about this last night, where early on, there was no Asians. And I remember coming, looking around, I think it was the first Vietnamese film, maybe one of the few Asians. And we were just trying to find each other. It was impossible, because there was no hub like this, which is amazing. I mean, this space here is just so mind-blowing, what's been done here, and a way for, so many Asian filmmakers and storytellers, and to come together is amazing. Back then, you know, even though there was like 8 or 9 of us, it was just hard to find each other. And we go to events and parties, and we'd like, literally got to be like the only Asian person there. So the arc of it, I've seen it from '96 all the way to now. It's been slow at parts, but the spurt of the last 5 years has been actually amazing. So.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible to see where we are today. And with Ramona, you've been here a couple of times. How have you seen the festival change? Oh, just like Tony said, it was my first film was 20 years ago here in '04, and yeah, gosh, it's changed so much. There's a space like this now, right? There never used to be. It's incredible. So, and I remember there was a big picture of me in headquarters, right? Because I felt like I was like a poster child up here. But yeah, it felt very lonely in a way because very few people who looked like me. Back in '04, 20 years ago. So it's come a long way. I mean, of course, we have a long way to go, but you know.
Well, you and Tony like kicked down the doors for so many of us here, right? And for Luciane, when you see what they've gone through and being the only few Asians here 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and you are here today in a room like this, how do you feel? Oh, it's so amazing and so inspiring, and I hope one day, you know, years in the future, I'll be sitting here and there's just so much more of us on this stage. So, this is a question for all
I'll just
three.
say one thing real quick. It's a really funny story. When I first got here, there were so few of us. I remember like going to some events and parties, and they would ask me if I knew how to speak Mandarin, so I could translate with the one other Asian. And I was like, just because I was Asian, I was like, no, I don't speak Mandarin. But yeah, so we've come a long way.
Okay, so this is a question for anybody who wants to answer. What do you think is a milestone for us in the next 5, 10, 20 years in representation and in feature films, documentaries, television? All right, never mind.
No, I mean, I'll answer it. Speaking of like putting like Asians on screen, one of the big milestones, because it's happened a little bit, it's changing. Honestly, it's just from a filmmaker standpoint, it's just putting, you know, it's interesting, it's sort of the Asian male in a position that's more sort of the lead, but also could be a romantic lead and not always, you know, the action star or the sidekick. For some reason, that hump is still really, really hard. We see, and I understand why, but it's just, you know, I've been in projects where I try to cast a one Asian male lead, and it's extremely difficult. And I think we're making progress, but that's something that I would like to see in 5, 10 years, to have more of that, especially romantic leads, and that would be really amazing.
Yeah, great.
I think that more decision makers, right, are Asians and Asian Americans. Right? And this thing about being able to tell the story through our lens, and who gets to tell the story, I think is a very important question that's being asked today. Should have been asked 20 years ago, but thank God it's being asked today because it's very important. And I hope that still it becomes more and more relevant.
So for Luciana, being a Pacific Islander, because I feel like in the Asian American Pacific Islander diaspora, we need more Pacific Islander stories. What do you hope to see? I just want there to be, especially for women, more complex roles. Kind of what you were saying, not playing like the hot girlfriend or like the comedic relief. That's kind of the genres that we keep to, and I know so many intelligent, layered women in my life who are amazing storytellers naturally, and I just kind of want to explore that. Like in my film, my lead that I play is a young professional. She's a speech language therapist, and that's like something that you would never associate in our culture, but it's just doing those little things to just change what we can play, and it's not explained, it's just is what it is. And so if we can just slowly do that, especially for women, yeah, I want to see more of that. Yeah. So for these last 20 years, there's so much changes for the better, and what are you optimistic about? What have you seen that you're really pumped up on?
I mean, honestly, just walking around, I'm optimistic because there's so many Asian American, Pacific filmmakers now. I mean, it's incredible, and that just means that There's going to be more of our stories out there, more representation. I can't tell you the impact that's going to have on the next generation, right? And it's going to get them to have confidence in their own stories. And even if they don't become filmmakers or storytellers, but their stories still have self-worth, and that's really important. They're going to go on and do incredible stuff. So I'm optimistic because, I mean, look at the space again. You know, it's amazing, and I don't think this is going to move backwards. I think it's going to move forward. And yeah, I mean, it's exciting. I can tell when I'm in meetings, the conversation's already changed in terms of who can be cast, what kind of stories that can be told. So there's already, shifts, so it's awesome.
I love that we are in all pockets of the entertainment content industry. There's the feature filmmakers and doc filmmakers, television, acting, writing, producing. So that is what inspires me. What about you? I think, I feel, when I pitch a story, I feel less defensive about the story, right? Before I felt like I had to defend why I wanted to tell this story. But now there's an understanding, oh yeah, okay, that's a story that you can tell and that people will come and watch it, right? It's less of a defensive position, and they get it. They get the stories, and you don't always have to explain everything because the stories about people.
Yeah,
No
it's
matter
like we
what.
don't have to constantly justify our
Exactly.
existence or why we need authenticity. So what about you, Lucy?
I think it's been inspiring watching the award seasons the past 2 years and watching Stephen Yeun and Ali Wong and even Michelle Yeoh last year, and just their presence on screen alone is enough, but like being recognized for it. I mean, I think all of us in this room watch those award shows with like so much pride, and like it doesn't matter that they're winning awards, but the fact that they're making high quality work that we all love. I mean, everything, everywhere, all at once. That was the first film that I saw post-COVID where I was laughing in the cinema, I was crying, I was all those things that we love about going to the movies. Yeah, just that standard of content now from this next generation is so exciting, and I think we're not going to stop, and we're just going to see more of it. So yeah, I'm optimistic in that way.
So before we turn it to the audience, what am I turning it to the audience now? Okay. Can you tell us quickly what's next for you?
I can't.
All right, yeah. Awesome.
I can't talk about it. Yeah, but,
Me neither. I can't talk about
Yeah,
it,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, but
we got something
wait for
going
it.
on though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's yeah.
All right, Tony. Can't talk about it.
So yeah, so my next film is going to be about the napalm girl photo. It's a Pulitzer Prize winning photo about the little girl that's naked running down the street. So I got the lights on that, and then we just telling the story in a way that hopefully people know the photo, don't really know the story behind it. So the film takes place over 72 hours, the day before the photo's taken, the day of, and the day after, and from the point of view of multiple people who were there that day, or had decision making on the photo, and a bunch of other aspects of that all lead up to the photo. So yeah, so that's the next film. It's a narrative feature film, and yeah,
Oh, it's a narrative. Okay, great.
narrative, yeah.
Awesome. Luciane, what's next for you?
So cool. I'm an actor mostly, so I'm doing this season of The Night Agent, season 2 right now. And then I was in an Apple TV show called Chief of War where I played Queen Ka'ahumanu. So that comes out later this year. And I just got rights for a book that me and my friend want to write. I mean, it's going to take us forever to do it, but I can't talk about that. But yeah, that's that.
Amazing. We'll turn it to the audience. Anybody have questions for any of us up here? We'd love to answer. All right then.
I am so honored and humbled by all of your accomplishments, so thank you for everything that you've done. I had a question for you. If Sundance, the organization, you feel could do something more for you in our community, what would you ask them for?
That's a good question. If Sundance could do more for us as a community or you as filmmakers, what would you ask for?
Sundance has done a lot for me, really, because they've supported my work, but beyond my work, they've supported me as an artist, actually. I've been part of their labs. I've been part of their funding. And I always say I wouldn't have a career, I don't think, without Sundance. And they do that very well. But they should do that for more people like me, basically, right? Because for a long time, yeah, they did. I'm very grateful, but yeah, I wish it would open up more.
Tony, anybody?
Yeah, for those who don't know, those who are new, I mean, Sundance has actually been incredible at pushing diversity, pushing new storytellers. I remember the call. I was 23 years old when Michelle Satter called me out of the, she had seen my short Yellow Lotus, that '96, and then I got a call from her about the lab. I had no idea what the lab was, and she was explaining it, and I was like, I'm still in film school. I don't want to go to another film school. I'm so glad I didn't listen to myself. And I went to go meet her. I had a first draft of 3 seasons, and she just explained it. It just kind of blew my mind. And I ended up doing the writer's lab, screenwriter's lab, and the director's lab. And it's one of the most supportive, incredible experiences. I mean, Kugler did it, a bunch of people did it, Chloe Zhao.
Yeah.
And Michelle Satter, I mean, I've said this before, but she's just such an icon, a motherly figure to all of us filmmakers. And even after the lab, she made sure 3 seasons got financed, and afterwards met up with me all the time, talked, and we're still friends to this day. And she's done it for hundreds of filmmakers, if not more. And so Sundance has put a lot of effort into a lot of diversity and expanding the sort of the kind of storytelling that would be considered common and relevant. And Sundance has really helped make that conversation bigger and more full in really amazing ways. So I want to give a shout out to them.
Yeah, I mean, I can answer. I have a huge career because of Sundance. And I am so, like, I love Sundance so much that they allow creators, talent of color, to be launched. And I feel like I became a real producer 2013 because of Fruitvale Station. And I got to meet so many incredible filmmakers, screenwriters in the labs, but I also recommend filmmakers and screenwriters into the labs from our diaspora, and they support it. So a lot of the work is done behind the scenes, so we're not out there going, this is what we need. It's not like that. The folks like Michelle Satter and her team that do these labs are so inclusive, and it's like silently building, and this is why we have what we have today. So.
Yeah, so I just feel like they never let me go, right? Once they caught, they gave me that first funding, they never let go. And I'm like, wow, this is nice. When are they gonna let go? And they haven't, so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and they also keep a certain level. It's not like, oh, just because you're diverse, you should get in. It's not about, I had films that were turned down, and I'm like pissed, right? Right? But then the thing is, I'm like, you know what? We always have to level up. We gotta be on the equal playing field. And that with Indigenous House and Bird Running Water, for a while he was doing the Indigenous labs. And he is still, but at one point in the film festival, there was an entire Indigenous section. He got rid of it, and people were pissed at him. And he said, I want all my Native American indigenous filmmakers to compete at the same level to get into the film festival. And he did that, and that's what we as a community has to do. We have to be at the same playing field and level up and create excellent storytelling. We have time for another question.
Hi, this question is for Luciane. I am also an actor and now a first-time filmmaker. And, I'm curious on your thoughts on when we want to bring cultural relevance versus just tell an everyday story, whether it's a love story or a workplace story, and with our production teams and our collaborators, regulating the conversations around, make sure the score has an Eastern element, or make sure some dialogue is spoken in your native tongue, versus, well, I already am South Asian, and this is just a normal story. So I'm curious on your thoughts, all of your thoughts on how to regulate those conversations, and also where that might also be needed versus where you can say, no, that's not part of the story.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if, in terms of like being the storyteller, the writer, director, it should come from a place of truth and wanting to tell that cultural story and wanting to shed light or share information about it because you want that to be a big part of the story. It shouldn't just be a random thing that doesn't push the story forward. On The Night Agent, my ethnicity is not specific. We don't even go into that, and I love that because it's not relevant to an FBI action thriller. If there was more time in the future, maybe that's something we go into, but I appreciate that. I don't think everything I need to do has to highlight my ethnicity, but the projects that are important and that I want to speak on that have to be about that. I'm in talks about doing a movie in the summer with an African-American actress, and the director asked her, do you want to talk about your ethnicity in this? And she's like, no, because I'm playing this character about this topic, and I don't want to. So I think it's based on whatever project you're doing and just gauging whether it's necessary, relevant, because sometimes there's just too much to talk about, and adding that in is just like another thing and you're trying to cover too much. But yeah, just gauge it on whether you think it's important or not.
It's really per project basis, and if your project is very culturally specific that you're going after, that's a conversation to have. So, another question? Last question?
Hi, I'm a film composer, so I'm not a filmmaker. But
Film composer.
but my question to you is, how do you find the balance between kind of over-explaining, especially as I feel like a lot of people who watch, our videos may not be from that background and may misunderstand a lot of things? How do you balance between over-explaining and just keeping it authentic?
Oh, over-explaining to whom?
Over-explaining to your audience, over-explaining your characters
Over-explaining
and
what?
stories, where it's just like very in your face, being like, hey, this is my identity and this is why, and I'm going, the story just kind of focuses on that versus
You're
this is like
over-explaining to audience watching something, or live over-explaining?
I think I know what you're saying. Like,
okay.
because as a documentary filmmaker, I'm always asked that, right? Give us the history and the background of the Philippines. I'm like, Google that. But this is my story, right? And I think if you make films that really catch you emotionally, then I always say audiences forget what they don't know, right? Because they're being brought along emotionally. And then at the end of the movie, they'll have questions about, history, blah, blah, blah. They'll find out on their own. But meanwhile, they've watched your film as a story on its own terms, right? So I always say, history, it's not an explainer, it's a film, right? If you want an explainer, read a book, go Google,
Cool. Thank you. We're running out of time. Please stay for a really exciting fireside chat with these guys who are all wearing white scarves. Sorry, come on. So thank you so much for being here. Please stay. Thank you.
Can you get everybody on stage?